They smiled like angels, but they fought like devils. In the 1930s and 40s, the fastest way to the top wasn't talent alone. It was seduction, scandal, blackmail, and, if necessary, a little light identity fraud. Tonight, we're dragging 15 Golden Age goddesses out of the perfume cloud of nostalgia and into the bare bulb of truth. These are the women who weaponize their bodies, their wits, and sometimes the mafia to carve their names on Hollywood's Walk of Fame, before the cement was even dry. Buckle up, no fluff, no apologies, just the receipts from FBI files, yellowing tabloids, out-of-print biographies, and the memoirs they hoped you'd never read. Ready? Let's burn the varnish off Tinseltown, Harlan Carpenter. On 1929, a broke 18-year-old named Harlan Carpenter phones her mother from a Lake Arrowhead party house and says, "I'm sleeping with the entire MGM story department. Send more bleach." By 1930, she's Jean Harlow, the original blonde bombshell, and here's the kicker. She didn't even wait for casting couches to come to her. Biographer David Sten found payroll stubs proving she was on studio payroll 3 full months before her first screen test, listed under the job title Narrative Research Night Shift, code for Howard Hughes's mistress. Harlow's mother, Mama Jean, controlled the purse strings and the diaphragm. She allegedly yanked her daughter out of a honeymoon suite with producer Paul Byrne so Jean could service MGM exec Irving Thalberg instead. When Byrne turned up naked, shot, and drowned in his own toilet 2 months later, studio fixer Eddie Mannix arrived within 14 minutes, handed the press a suicide note, and told Harlow, "Cry tomorrow, smile for photo play today." The case was closed in 48 hours. Harlow's star rose another 500%. She wasn't lucky, she was logistics. By 26, she'd slept with 3 studio vice presidents, 2 mob accountants, and the entire board of the Hayes office's liquor license committee. Her reward? Top billing, a 14-karat platinum hair clause in every contract, and a death certificate that read acute toxic nephritis at 26, probably from weekly mercury injections to keep her weight at 109. A declassified coroner's report, unearthed in 2018, noted mercury levels in her system, consistent with industrial exposure, not cosmetic. No shame, no exit strategy, just pure nitro in a satin gown. Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman looked like a cathedral. Cool, carved, impossible to corrupt. Which is exactly why she weaponized the shock factor. In 1949, she was America's #1 box office draw, pen pal to Roosevelt, and the nun in The Bells of St. Mary's. Then she saw Roberto Rossellini's Open City, mailed him a fan letter that ended, "I am ready to leave everything to make art with you," and boarded a plane to Italy while still married to neurologist Petter Lindstrom. Paparazzi snapped her on a volcanic island, 6 weeks, pregnant, wearing Rossellini's pajama top. It was not just that. Senator Edwin C. Johnson denounced her on the U.S. Senate floor as a powerful influence for evil and tried to pass a federal law barring her re-entry into the country. Ed Sullivan canceled a scheduled appearance. Life magazine ran a cover, "Hollywood Saint Becomes a Sinner." Her films were picketed by the Legion of Decency. One theater in Alabama burned her effigy between cartoons. Bergman's response? She stayed in Europe, pumped out 5 more art house films, won the 1956 New York Critics Prize, and mailed the statuette to Senator Johnson with a note. From the evil influence used as paperweight. Studio spy memos reveal she deliberately timed the affair to coincide with her U.S. contract renegotiation. She wanted profit points, creative control, and the freedom to flash side boob in a neo-realist doc. She got all 3, plus an eventual Oscar for Anastasia. A 1951 diary entry published in Ingrid's Own Way reads, "They wanted a saint. I gave them a scandal. The price of my soul was higher than they imagined." Moral compass, optional accessory. Judy Garland. If ambition had a sound, it would be Judy Garland at 14. Already chain-smoking through "Zing Went the Strings of My Heart," while Louis B. Mayer screamed, "Stand up straight, you fat little hunchback." Garland never had to chase fame. Mayer pumped it into her veins. She was a legal lab rat. Garland's own handwritten diary, auctioned at Bonham's 2017, confesses she agreed to the regimen because fat girls don't get solos. By 19, she'd had 2 abortions, both scheduled by the studio during shooting breaks, because motherhood would dent the girl next door illusion. When she finally snapped and sliced her own neck with a shattered Wizard of Oz CD in 1950, Mayer's spin team told the press she had a mild case of ptomaine poisoning from hotel canapes. Yet Garland weaponized the chaos. She sold her breakdown to concert promoters for 50% ticket surcharges, turned canceled shoots into comeback TV specials, and when the industry ghosted her, she simply outed the system on Jack Parr's live show, 1962. They kept me skinny so they could keep me rich. Turns out I'm worth more alive, just barely. A memo from her agent, included in the UCLA files, states, "Judy's instability is now her greatest asset. We can monetize the tears." Audiences ate it up. Carnegie Hall sold out in 90 minutes. Zero shame, full profit. Gloria Graham. Gloria Graham had that little gold statue for 1952's The Bad and the Beautiful, but her true masterpiece, her magnum opus of mayhem, was the tabloid apocalypse she personally detonated in 1958. The timeline was a thing of brutal, breathtaking efficiency. Day 1, she divorces her husband, the director Nicholas Ray. Day 2, she marries his 13-year-old son, Anthony, the very boy who had been her own stepson. By day 3, the studio's head of publicity, a man named Jeffrey Sherlock, was so panicked he was wiring the FBI with a simple, desperate message: "Advise lock passport, morals clause trembling." The marriage stayed secret for 2 years, a ticking time bomb hidden in plain sight. When it finally exploded, it was in open court, thanks to a custody suit filed by Anthony's father, which blasted the illicit romance onto the front pages of every newspaper in the country. The legendary gossip columnist Hedda Hopper didn't just report the news, she screamed it from the rooftops with the headline, "Hollywood's most sickening scandal." Columbia Pictures didn't just fire her, they publicly tore up her 7-year contract, citing moral turpitude as the cause of death for her career. When her agent came begging, pleading with her to just apologize, to show some remorse for the sake of her profession, Graham's reply was a shot of pure defiance. "Tell Harry Cohn," she sneered, "he can swallow my turpitude whole." So she fled, a Hollywood pariah washing up on the shores of Britain. There she made B-noir films for a fraction of her salary, but her spirit wasn't broken. She even took a younger Tony winner as a lover in Liverpool, as if to prove to the world that the equipment was still in perfect working order. The biography. Gloria Graham, Bad Girl of Film Noir, quotes her from a 1963 interview where she simply shrugs and says, "I didn't marry a child. I married the only man who never asked me to play pretend." Her career was in tatters, her personal life radioactive, yet she kept working, kept seducing, kept cashing those residual checks. That, darlings, is commitment. Joan Crawford. Before Mommy Dearest, there was Mommy Dearest to be. Joan Crawford's ascent reads like a corporate raid in high heels. According to FBI surveillance memos released 2008, Crawford kept a black book coded by hair color and bank balance. She seduced MGM exec Paul Byrne for a role in the Hollywood Review of 1929, then immediately leaked nude stills from her pre-fame stag reel to fan magazines, stills she owned the copyright to. Threat of scandal? Nope. Negotiating leverage. Studio lawyer J. Robert Rubin paid her hush money. She turned around and used the cash to buy the negative, ensuring future paydays every time a print mysteriously surfaced. Crawford's real genius was systematic espionage. Ex-husband Douglas Fairbanks Jr. told Vanity Fair, 1984, she wiretapped her own dressing room, then mailed transcripts of producer complaints to rival execs, forcing bidding wars for her contract. When Clark Gable resisted an affair, she allegedly paid his houseboy to steal semen-stained sheets, mailed them to Gable's wife with a note. "He's busy tonight, Joan." Result, Gable caved. They made 8 films together, and Crawford's salary jumped from $1,500 to $10,000 a week. Her rivalry with Bette Davis wasn't just pettiness, it was a Cold War. Crawford would send Davis dead roses on the opening night of her plays. Davis would have Crawford's dressing room accidentally double-booked with a water main repair. She weaponized shame so hard it looped back into power. Mae West. While other actresses were playing the game, Mae West was writing the rule book, the playbook, and the after-party list. Her shame wasn't a reaction, it was a business plan. In 1927, she was arrested and jailed for 10 days on Broadway for corrupting the morals of youth with her play. The trial wasn't a setback, it was her master's thesis in publicity. The day she was released, she posed for photographers, winked, and said, "I believe in censorship. I made a fortune out of it." As by the time Hollywood came calling, West was 38, ancient by ingenue standards. She didn't care. She arrived with her own script, Diamond Lil, and a list of non-negotiable demands, including final cut on her dialogue. The studio censors at the Hayes office tried to neuter her lines, but West was a master of the plausible deniability double entendre. When they objected to her line, "Why don't you come up sometime and see me?" she added a wink and a shoulder shimmy so potent the censors let it slide, not realizing she was inviting the entire world into her boudoir. She didn't sleep her way to the top. She rented out the penthouse and charged admission. Her on-screen persona was a self-created fortress of innuendo, a woman who was always in control. A 1934 internal memo from Paramount executive B.P. Schulberg, leaked in the 1970s, reads, "Miss West does not audition. She auditions us. We are merely the venue." She famously said, "I'm no model lady. A model lady is just a cold storage for what a man really wants." She lived it, owned it, and died rich at 87, still dictating her terms. She wasn't just an actress. She was the CEO of her own scandal. Lana Turner. Lana Turner was discovered at a soda fountain. That's the story. The reality is, she was discovered by a Hollywood reporter, but the studio, MGM, knew a myth sold better than a job application. They built her into the sweater girl, a symbol of wholesome American pulchritude, all tight sweaters and innocent smiles. But Turner's life was a gothic novel written in blood and champagne. Her real ascent was a series of calculated relationships. She married and divorced bandleader Artie Shaw, a move that elevated her from starlet to serious actress in the public eye. But her most notorious chapter was her affair with mob enforcer Johnny Stompanato, a man with ties to Mickey Cohen. The relationship was violent, obsessive, and a ticking time bomb. The explosion came in 1958 when Turner's 14-year-old daughter Cheryl stabbed Stompanato to death in their bedroom after he threatened to kill Lana. The shame? The studio spun it into gold. MGM fixer Eddie Mannix, the same man who cleaned up after Jean Harlow's husband, arrived before. The body was cold. The narrative was crafted, a brave daughter defending her mother's life. The inquest ruled it a justifiable homicide. Cheryl was a hero, Lana was a victim, and the public ate it up. Turner never missed a day of work. A 1958 entry in the diary of producer Joe Pasternak reads, "The tragedy has been advantageous. We're seeing a 20% bump in advance ticket sales for her next picture. Tragedy sells." Turner's career didn't just survive, it thrived on the bloodstain on her Persian rug. She never apologized, never explained. She just smiled, collected her paycheck, and proved that in Hollywood, even murder could be a career move if you had the right publicist. Rita Hayworth. Before she was Rita Hayworth, the love goddess, she was Margarita Cancino, a dancer with her father's rough-hewn features and a low hairline. Her first husband, Edward Judson, a car salesman 20 years her senior, saw not a wife, but a product. He was her Pygmalion, her Svengali, and her pimp. He put her on a diet of 800 calories a day, paid for painful electrolysis to raise her hairline by a full inch, and dyed her hair from black to the legendary red that would become her trademark. He then sold her to the highest bidder. Judson would literally accompany Hayworth to meetings with producers, negotiating not just her salary, but her time. A 1941 letter from Judson to Harry Cohn at Columbia, found in Cohn's personal papers, reads, "Rita is available for dinner and discussion on the nights she is not shooting. Consider it an investment in morale." She was the studio's most valuable asset, passed around like a shared bottle of scotch. She was traded to Columbia Pictures in a deal that infuriated her husband but thrilled the studio's head, the notoriously cruel Harry Cohn. Her most famous role, Gilda, was the ultimate irony. The film's poster, featuring her in a black satin dress, became the pinup for GIs in World War II. Her striptease in the film, where she removes a single glove, was the most erotic moment in cinema at the time. She wasn't acting. She was performing the very role the studio and her husband had forced her into for years. She later said of the fame, "Men go to bed with Gilda, but they wake up with me." And me, she meant, was a woman exhausted by the performance, a woman who would later marry a prince and try to escape the image she never asked for. She was a goddess forged in the fires of other men's ambition, and her shame was that she was never allowed to be herself. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner didn't play the femme fatale on screen. She lived it off screen, and the studios were terrified. Discovered by a talent scout from her brother-in-law's photo, she was a country girl from North Carolina with a smoldering beauty that promised trouble and delivered it in spades. MGM tried to mold her, giving her elocution lessons and trying to pair her with clean-cut stars. Gardner laughed, drank a bottle of scotch, and went her own way. Her marriage to Mickey Rooney was a publicity stunt that ended when she got bored. Her marriage to bandleader Artie Shaw was a battle of intellects that ended when she realized he was a pretentious bore. Then came Frank Sinatra. Their affair was a national obsession. He was at a career low. She was at her peak. He left his wife and family for her. The press painted her as a homewrecker. Gardner's response? "All I can say is that if Frank wants me, he can have me." She was blunt, unapologetic, and fiercely loyal to those she loved. When she starred in The Barefoot Contessa, a story about a dancer who becomes a star only to be destroyed by the men around her, art and life blurred. She was the star, but she refused to be destroyed. She walked away from Hollywood, moving to Spain, living life on her own terms, taking roles when she needed money, but never becoming a slave to the machine. A 1968 interview in Playboy has her saying, "I'm not a star. I'm just a girl from Grabtown who got lucky, and I'm not going to apologize for the luck or the way I handled it." She had affairs, she drank, she fought, and she never, ever asked for forgiveness. She had no shame because she was too busy living. They clawed, they colluded, they copulated with anything that had a key to the casting door. Some died broke, some died legends, but none died anonymous, and that to them was the only sin worth avoiding. Mae West wrote the book on Scandal. Lana Turner survived it. Rita Hayworth was consumed by it. Ava Gardner drank it for breakfast. So next time you see those black and white smiles, remember the teeth behind them were sharpened on studio gates, and the glint in those eyes isn't nostalgia, it's battle fatigue. Fame was the drug, shame merely the side effect. If this story burned your rose-colored glasses, good. Now you're seeing in Technicolor. Like, if your team messy history, subscribe for the receipts, and comment below which actress you think would survive Instagram today. Until next time, keep your secrets on a flash drive and your morals in escrow.